Hey everybody, Larry, One Man Garage. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and enjoying some time off. I hadn't done much. We had a cold spell and stayed in the house, but I've moved the Catalina under its own power today out of the driveway just for the heck of it, really. Just clean up the driveway and preparing for my son and his family to come visit. Should be here in a day or two. Put the street tires and the old slots back on the C10, moved it, did a little burnout, and need to air up the air shocks. And there's Tinker, our old dog, she's still there. And I just gotta clean up all this crap. Clean up the driveway, those old bolts. I've been working on that rear end from the Firebird, and had to use this rusted drum brake remover. It's the beat the crap out of it 3000, which is like a welded steel pipe on a log splitter. That's what got the drums off the Grand Prix parts car, and got them off of this finally. Try to save some of the hardware, but you know, I got to get the axles out next. But a little PB blaster and some sledge action. Alright, Tinker. Lawrence will be here. Anyways, that's what we're doing. Yeah, it's really best to use 3/8 drive, 9/16 stuff to get through the access hole in the axle to do the retainer axle retention nuts, because you know, Pontiac 8.2 10 bolts and the big car 8.875 10 bolt cover 12 bolt ring, you know, rear ends of this. Basically all the Pontiacs in the 60s, big car, F body, A body, they all have bolt-in axles. So they got these style bolts. I call them T-bolts because from the side it's like a T, but if you have a rear end that has just a regular hex head bolt with a nut, that's the way a C-clip axle comes, like a Chevy or like a 12 bolt. But bolt-in axles have these on the back and you just have the nut. So that's a sort of a quick thing in the junkyard if you're not sure what you're looking at. That's going to be a bolt-in axle rear end. It has these little flat sort of nut retainers, whatever you want to call them. I call them T-bolts. We're going to pop on that, and I think that's already broke loose. So we're going to get those nuts off and pull it out. Yeah, a lot of times you can just use a drum as a slide hammer, but heck, I just popped on it with a crowbar, and look at all this yummy stuff. There's that old nasty thing. This one might be tougher to turn over, but we gotta get the axles out or we can't pull the gears out and see what the rust damage is. I got the other 68 Firebird 256 open rear. I can probably use gears out of it, maybe axles if the bearings are better. But this original housing, we're gonna clean it up and use it for sure. And then just use the scraps to get it together. We'll see what happens. Well, I had to use a hand wrench to get these off because I guess the spider gears are stuck or whatever. This axle wasn't rotating. All that water sat in it. A lot of rust. Let's see if this works. It worked. Ooh. It actually looks like the separation is not quite what I thought. Might have to go get the puller. This is a slide hammer of my own design. It's all thread and washers. I think it's 3/4 all thread, and I had these brass hammer heads, and It's coming. Just like that. Nothing but a little bit of physics. An object in motion tries to stay in motion, something like that. Yeah, it turned out that bearing was rusted. So, yeah, like I said, this whole housing's gonna need a clean up, and it has an inner grease seals. So we're gonna actually try to do this housing right and clean it up nice. Get it put together. I do have the socket 1 1/4 for the old pinion nut. We're going to try to get that off. Going to set this thing into full torque brake shit mode. See what happens. Easily. The Milwaukee always busts its nut. Just saying. Well, I got the old 1/2 inch socket out. Got the cover off again. Oh, that smell you just can't get used to. I'm not even going to say what it smells like, but it's like old ashtrays and dirty cat box. You know, maybe in a homeless encampment tent in the summer with some Colt 45 poured in and stirred up and set out in the sun. I'm not sure, but we're going to use a 5/8. That's your GM cap bolts. Note they're like copper coated from the factory, which is kind of neat. I guess they just did it so they wouldn't get stuck. I don't know. Look at that though, pretty, huh? It's the only nice looking thing in here. But yeah, note the arrow to the out. So your caps need to stay to which side they came off of. Just saying. Anyway, the ongoing mess that I'm gonna clean up tomorrow, I guess. Anyway, I got the vice grip and the punch. I always use the center punch to drive out the gear, even if you're knocking the flange off. That way you don't damage the threads on the gears, even though these might be junk. But got this sledgehammer head. We're gonna put 2 and 2 together and figure it out. Got a little bit of progress, but you know, normally you would just take the gear set out, but I was just letting the pinion give the other side a nudge so I can catch it with some pliers. As you see here, should, yeah, get that out. Man, haven't had an 8.2 apart in a while. Suckers, the races look wide. Yeah, that's awesome. Not really. I'm gonna keep that left and right. Flip this back up. My hand's dirty. I'm gonna go ahead and do this the wrong way. I put the nut on, but use this other socket so it'll hit past the threads in this area. So, I mean, the nut can be reused if you kind of ding the threads in on that end, the tapered end, because that actually gives drag on it. So it's as good as a new nut with some Loctite going on. Probably should just turn this off and use my right hand. Well, she's a little tighter than I expected. Didn't hurt any threads, even though the gears might be trash anyway. May have to go ahead and use a puller and pull the flange off. I guess the splines are really tight with rust or whatever. Usually it doesn't take much to knock it loose. But my back hurts, so I'm gonna go take a break. It might even be tomorrow when I pull this out. Well, it's the next day. Back hurts less. Barely got this puller to fit. Kind of banged it in there using some carburetor bolts with some nuts and washers. So anyway, let's get the show on the road. Or maybe you can watch like that. Well, that's fighting. My gosh. Not impressed today. Probably run that. Let's throw some old grease in there with some water mixed in it. And we'll put some on the pivot. It's still trying to fight. Well, we won. Oh. Not sure how good that's anymore. Got the pinion out. We're going to put the caps back where they go for the washing. I'm gonna probably dig out the power washer and clean the driveway and spray some of this off. I'm really good at making a big mess, but I like to think I got something done, you know. If you're too worried about not making a mess, you might not ever get anything done. So I gotta round up some bucket or something, or box, some of this hardware to hold on to. But yeah, she's out. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to clean these gears up. I'm gonna wire brush them, see if the ring gear, it's the ring I'm worried about, but if the pattern looks alright, we're gonna reuse them. We'll check in a bit. Yeah, the ring gear's toasted, as I already knew. I mean, it's had about a third of it or half of it exposed above the oil line, so it's got gritty, heavy rust. So even though the pinion was mostly submerged, is why it looked better. But you can see the line change when it goes to the rust, and yeah, so that's trash. So not sure if we're gonna do 256 gears I have, because if they're 68, they're gonna have 3/8 ring gear bolt threads, right hand thread, but 69 to 72 is 7/16 left hand thread, like a corporate 8.5, and the posi unit is the latter of the two, because I bought it for the 69 Le Mans, which it'd be the bigger bolts, so I can't use 68 and older ring gear on that posi unit. It can only be a 256 or 278, unless I don't use that one and it still goes in the Le Mans later. So I do have a pitted housing, good clean inside 323 safety track 65 GTO rear end. Possibly it's a buddy's. It might be swapping material for setting up a couple other rear ends, or he may still want to use the guts. I don't know. I might end up putting that in here, put 323 safety track, which is really the proper perfect gear ratio for a 455 for a, you know, drivable but great drag racing ratio. So maybe that'll happen. be a little zippier anyway. We're gonna sign off for now. Back hurts again. So we're gonna power wash here a little bit later. I gotta get some soap and brush all this yak. Ugh, it's nasty. Thanks for watching.